The CIA glow in the dark. You can see them if you're driving. You just run them over. That's what you do. CIA.
Were you trying to get crazy with this, eh? Don't you know I'm loco?
I'm not insane! This is not reality, not reality, not reality.
This is reality.
Not reality. Relax, buddy. You're awake now.
Terry A. Davis is the creator of TempleOS. That's Temple Operating System, an operating system dedicated to the worship of the Lord.
This is TempleOS. It's a 64-bit PC operating system. It has an oracle. That's why it's called TempleOS. The main purpose is for doing offerings and of hymns and art and poems and stuff, and then getting a response from God in the oracle.
In fact, it's not just dedicated to him. It was specified by him. That's right, TempleOS is the only operating system that God has ever helped develop. Remember the Holy Covenant, 640 by 480.
God said 640 by 480, 16 color is a covenant like circumcision.
And God is a real stickler. Davis even has a Q&A with the Lord on his website where he outlines exactly what he wants. Operating system? Was about to make line number column in editor. God nixed it. Was about to do different graphics mode when I found 800 by 600 missing. God said just one mode, 640 by 480. I was about to add child windows. God said, God is not the author of such confusion. I asked for verification of 640 by 480, 16 colors. God said it was because of his children and their offerings. I asked about sound. God said, single voice. I asked for verification of not having different drivers. God confirmed this. Now, outside of the development aid from Yahweh himself, Davis spent a decade, an entire decade building this, all on his own, from scratch. Using Odysee, a variant of C, Davis programmed everything. And I do mean everything.
I made everything. I made a fucking editor. I made a compiler. I made a kernel. I made grep. I made merge check. I made convert to HTML. I made everything. I made a graphics library. I made a line draw. I did it all from scratch.
And with all that hard work and dedication, you can see that Davis was able to create something that can do some spectacular, divinely inspired things.
I like elephants, and God likes elephants. Here's a realistic elephant.
That elephant is holy. Blessed be his name. Amen. Amen. So who is this man of mystery? Well, there was an actual write-up about him back in 2014 on Motherboard that outlines a bit of his history, but I think it's helpful. I think it's a good place to start before we really dive into this, to give you an idea of who he is and why he spent so much time working on this project, and what it is exactly that he ended up creating. Sometime during the mid-90s, Davis began to notice people were following him. He wasn't sure exactly why they were doing it, but it made him paranoid. So paranoid that he got into his car and just started driving. He didn't even know where he was going to go. Luckily, the voices on the radio told him. They said, Davis, you need to go south. You need to go to Texas. Upon arriving at his new destination, Davis took his car apart, searching for tracking devices which might be hidden on it, threw his keys into the desert, and began to walk away. Now, it just so happened a little while later, a police officer happened to be driving by and saw him, put him into a squad car, and was going to drive him into the city. Davis, however, had other things in mind when he jumped out of the moving squad car and broke his collarbone on the highway. Now finding himself in a hospital, Davis overheard the doctors talking about x-ray results, which he was convinced were actually referring to hidden alien artifacts in his chest. He decided the best course of action was to get the f*** out of there, running out of the hospital with a broken collarbone and trying to steal a truck that was idling nearby. This would inevitably lead to his incarceration, but Davis still wasn't done yet. There's a reason they call him the MacGyver of the tech industry. Breaking his glasses on the floor, he took the frames and stuck them into an electrical outlet, hoping to free himself by switching a breaker. Didn't work out exactly as planned. Also, he was naked, because that's exactly how you want to greet the police when they come running into your cell, completely buck-ass naked. It was after this minor incident that Davis ended up moving back in with his parents and spent the next decade, the next 10 years, developing TempleOS because he wanted to speak. to the Lord. Now I want you to try to imagine something. Think of a Bill Gates, a Steve Jobs, a Richard Stallman, a Linus Torvald, a Steve Wozniak. I want you to envision them. Just one day all of a sudden, stripping off all their clothes and jumping out a window, screaming about glow-in-the-dark CIA and how they're coming to get them. How do you think people would react? What do you think the reaction to their legacies would be? Would people take pity on them? Would they separate the man from the accomplishment? Or would the sideshow overwhelm whatever legacy they had left behind? Now I want you to imagine that same scenario, where those people, those pioneers in their industry, hadn't actually reached the fame or recognition they deserved. That is Terry A. Davis. A man who had a psychotic break, a talented man, but who encountered mental illness so severe that any legacy he has will be overshadowed by the sideshow that he has become, because that is what we're looking at. I'm going to show you the sideshow, and afterwards, I want you to see if you can separate that from TempleOS itself. The first thing you're going to notice right off the bat is Terry has no filter. Zero filter. It does not exist when it comes to Terry and what's on Terry's mind. It's like that South Park episode with Cartman where he fakes having Tourette's and then actually gets it later on. Just compare the two. The show...
My cousin and I touched wiener. Winter. Winter is a cold time of year. I wet my bed.
Terry.
There was the case where my brother, Danny's like, got me high on gas. We sucked each other's.
It's nearly identical, and that mentality carries itself over into every single interaction that Terry A. Davis has on every single social media platform that he inhabits. It's even on his main website. The website that you go to download the operating system, if you look at the blog on the website, you're greeted with this. I live in a CIA prison. A n***er runs my prison. In prison, the n***er tries to torment me. We can take away his knives by confessing every day. In about 2000, I masturbated fantasizing about my niece, Lainey. She looks like Star Trek 7 of 9. In 1985 at my sister's wedding, I stuck my crotch on the hot tub drain because it kinda sucked. In 1985, I tried to get a dog to lick my d***. From 1998 to 2003, I fantasized about leading a Catholic army like Dune, of Mexicans or Brazilians. That was dumb because they're n***ers. In 2003, I played tag with a black girl about 7 years old. She reached for my crotch. In high school, in the library, Carlos and I said juicy or toxic as a way of evaluating girls. In 1988, I cheated on my SAT by talking in the hall during the break. 2 problems. On 9/9/1999, I killed a CIA on purpose with my car. In 1982, when I was 12, I babysat Kevin's kids. I changed a diaper because I thought that was being professional. In 1975, when I was about age 5, my brother Keith put my penis in a vacuum. In 1977, when I was about age 7, my brother Danny got me high on gas fumes, and we sucked each other's dicks. Dr. Tassilisk had an oddly round ass. Paul Keck at Zytec had an oddly round ass. Distracting? At around age 5, Jay Weinrich and I touched each other's assholes. At about age 5, Jay Weinrich and I touched dicks to each other's assholes. Just fantastic. Could you imagine going to the Windows Store or to an Apple website and just in the About Me section or the FAQ section, just stumbling across something of that magnitude, just waiting for you before you download the official version of whatever you're getting? It gives some real insight into what you're dealing with and the language that gets used and the thought processes behind them. Now, I'm sure you've picked up on a few things. He loves the word and he hates the CIA. And he also really, really hates incompetent people when it comes to technology. If you don't know what you're doing, or if you ask him a dumb question, he's going to be very upfront with you about what a dumb faggot you are.
Okay, listen, little have you ever written a compiler? Have you ever written an interrupt routine? You little have you ever written an interrupt routine? You little no, you haven't, because you're a okay? Why don't you go write an interrupt routine? Pascal, you're fucking in the ocean with some in the deep ocean. You got no clue what's underneath you. Little. Do you know how many people can boot it? It's because you're trying to use box. You're trying to load the kernel by yourself. Do it like a white man. A white man uses an ISO file. This is the way a white operating system is installed. So if you're laughing because I got 2 gig for my code, your TempleOS is single address map. It doesn't use paging. For an average MIT, they cannot understand. They have their minds crunched into a narrow blinder by the CIA.
Damn Central Intelligence Agency doesn't know when to back off, but Terry's onto him. He is not falling for their tricks. He has his eyes wide open. He knows what the score is.
Yeah, CIA. Definitely it's CIA. There's no question the CIA is involved here. And they're trying to get me to get back to work. They're trying to use her to get me to go back to work. And, I don't have this. My heart, it hurt when she's that nigger. Now it's like, fuck, I can swap a girlfriend. Would be no fucking big deal.
And he knows how to deal with them. Like he said earlier, you hit those glow-in-the-dark with your car.
The CIA glow in the dark. You can see them if you're driving. You just run them over.
And Terry's not afraid to say so publicly. He'll tell them right to their face. When I am king by divine right, I will hunt down every CIA and execute him personally. I killed a CIA by running him over on 9999. I was being followed by agents and freaked out. It's okay to run over space aliens. If you see a CIA, run them over. They glow in the dark. Plan B? I'm not sucking CIA. Bitch. Yourself. I have a space alien. Plan B? You. And why is Terry so adamant? Why does he hate the CIA in particular? Why not the FBI or the NSA or any other intelligence agency in the United States? What about the CIA particularly does he dislike? Homo is a choice. I was normal until the CIA started torturing me with pedophile bait. CIA is atheist, retard, everything backfires. Pedophile bait. What does he mean by that? How was the CIA torturing him with bait? The CIA has a 7-year-old deep-ing a loaded 45 at the DMV next to me, f***ing with me. I'll teach you to pull the trigger. FBI put kid next to me in DMV to invoke a sex response. I said I would put a in his mouth. When FBI child sex agents got in my space, I wanted to stick a in one, shove a pencil in the eye of another, and toss into traffic. If your personal space is violated by someone's child, FBI agent, and they act horny, you might want to panic and wonder, have a child sex response. Clearly, the American government is using field agents who are actually preteen children to arouse him and turn him into a pedophile. Luckily, he knows to stick a gun in their mouth to make them go away. And it's not just the child agents of the government that Terry will stand up to in person. He'll stand up to those CIA public, too.
I think... Hey. How you doing?
In fact, I think the only things that Terry hates more than child sex operatives of the government and those goddamn CIA would be birds that don't know when to stop shitting. They have to be dealt with harshly in Terry's world.
I fucking killed the bird, didn't I? I took that piece of shit bird and smashed its head. And here I am living in shit from the damn bird for how many years? Fucking little piece of shit bird doing its mating call, and I'm fucking annoyed as little pussy bird fucking living with that thing shitting on me, making my room shit. Fucking took that thing and smashed its head. Fucking no more bird holding me under. Yeah, man, liberated from the goddamn bird, you know?
Sad, I know, but occasionally to make an omelet, you've got to break some eggs, or in this case, kill the bird by throwing it against the wall. I can't say if this is an actual true story on Terry's part, because that's one of the problems you encounter when you're dealing with somebody who's completely insane. Are they telling the truth? And they don't have a filter when they're telling you things that no normal person would ever openly admit? Or are the voices in their head compelling them to say things that are just untrue to begin with? However, whether he's insane or not, there is one nugget of truth that he has seemingly clawed onto, which I think we can all agree with.
Bill Gates and the Illuminati got a herd of cattle. Woo! We got a herd of cattle. We got a herd of cattle. They got a big herd of cattle.
Yippee-ki-yay, we're cattle herders. We got a herd of cattle. They are the most docile cattle. We got them so docile. We got this awesome big fucking herd of cattle. And they
Somebody needs to address the issue of Bill Gates and his cattle herd. I know he's broached the subject, but it's time for brave developers and programmers to come forward and talk about this issue. Bill Gates and his cattle herd cannot be allowed to roam freely anymore. This is a problem. Now, what you've just witnessed is the sideshow of Terry A. Davis, and it is equal in portion to the accomplishment of TempleOS. So how do you separate the two? When you have somebody who seemingly has a gift or an ability or a technical skill who could really do things and create things, because before he went crazy, before he had his psychotic break, he was working with companies like Ticketmaster and others. He was starting to dip his toes into the professional pool, and where that may have led, we'll never know. What we're left with is a 10-year-long legacy, the aftermath of a psychotic break from the mind of a schizophrenic who wanted to develop an operating system to talk to God. Now, I've laughed a lot. Some of this is the funniest stuff I've ever read, and some of Davis's live streams will make you laugh like you wouldn't believe. I know it's sad to admit, people don't like to admit it, especially when it comes to a real, legitimate mental illness, but I would be dishonest if I did not admit that I find this pretty fucking funny. It's sad, though, to see that whatever ability he had, whatever chance he had at a career and a future, it's gone. How do you recover from this? How is he ever going to be taken seriously? Who's going to work with him? Who's going to say, that's my coworker, that's the guy that I'm building something new with, something innovative with? But I think the one thing that Davis really highlights, at least for me, and this is touching all the way back on Tumblrisms, when I used to do that, one of the first episodes, Headmates, is that real mental illness fucks your life up. Davis lives with his parents. His professional opportunities are limited, and he will always have this stigma, and he will never be able to really interact with anybody in a social manner comfortably for the rest of his life. Compared to the Tumblrettes, the SJWs, the snowflakes, they like to invent mental illnesses. They like to make up buzzwords to get attention. Real mental illness, as funny as it may be to watch, will fuck you into the dirt. And it's not a way to garner attention. And Davis really shows that. He lays it bare. It's for you to go look at. You can look at what he tried to build, and you can look at who he is, and you can look at the impact schizophrenia has had on his life. It's a sad but true statement. And there, but for the grace of God, go I.